it's back together. Man, have I been looking forward to this. Jim Monos is back in the Go Long family, baby. Jim, what's happening? This is, I should introduce what this show is, too. We're calling it Real Football because, as the OGs at Go Long remember, Jim Monos right there on your screen, he was a scout for the Philadelphia Eagles, New Orleans Saints. He's got a Super Bowl ring to his name, and the director of personnel for the Buffalo Bills, and he's got stories to share. And right now, he's the GM, a GM in the UFL, and he's making the media rounds here in Western New York in that high school football scene. But we're glad to have you back right here at Go Long, and hell yeah, we're calling it Real Football because that's the goal always, is to take people behind the curtain. Let's go beyond the fluff, beyond the press conference. And I just thought it'd be a great idea, Jim, for our paid subscribers to give them a show genuinely worth their time. And as anybody can attest that's heard you and heard your stories, they know that you make their time very well worth it. So, man, it's great to see you, buddy. How you been?
Tyler, how you been? I can't believe I don't feel like I ever left. I always feel like I'm part of the Go Long
Yeah.
family. It feels good to be back
right.
though, man. Really good. I love that we came back after the Chiefs game. It feels fitting after the Bills beat the Chiefs, and we started this thing with Patrick Mahomes and the journey that Terry Pagula wanted him, and we were part of with Doug Willie and myself in that draft with Sean McDermott. And we've taken that idea from that first podcast about how that all went down, how we drafted or didn't want to draft Mahomes with the Buffalo Bills. And here we are, however many years later, we're still talking. I just think it's fitting right after Bills Chiefs. And then here's the funny thing, Tyler. You brought up Section 6 high school football in Western New York. I didn't know anything about it. And that's right up your alley.
You're in my neck of the woods, right down here in the sticks. Yeah, we should probably kind of like reset and remind people how this relationship really was forged, Jim. I mean, it's been a while. It's been a half decade in the middle of COVID mayhem. You and I were there at Resurgence, right? Remember, you had to, if you were going to have a beer, you had to get food because that's what the science told all of the masses. That's how that pandemic was really spreading. So we pounded like 3 or 4 baskets of fried pickles from what I remember. And we just talked football for hours and hours and hours. And that's really when you kind of explained to everybody, right? That was the first story that I launched with at Go Long. What happened in that 2018 NFL draft, which was news, I think, to everybody, that the owner, Terry Pagula, had the foresight that scouting intellect to know Patrick Mahomes was going to be an all-time great. He wanted him, but it just wasn't the right time, right? Like, you were there, Doug Whaley was there. It was Sean McDermott's first year, and Sean didn't want to draft a quarterback out of the chute. Wanted to really install his culture. And to his credit, I mean, it was kind of a mess, as you've detailed several times over. The house did need to be cleaned out, and he wanted to wait at quarterback. So Terry did not go full Jerry Jones, did not tell you and Doug and Sean what to do. So you make a fantastic trade, right? Like, you get a future first, you get players that are still on the team and still in the NFL. And Josh Allen is one hell of a consolation prize the following year. So they had the draft capital with Brandon Beane in his front office to land that franchise quarterback. But that's kind of how this all started. So like you're breaking this all down for that story at Go Long, and I'll link it and you can Google it if you guys want to check it out if you missed it. I think it was called "The Pressure Is on Josh Allen," because at that time nobody really knew what he was going to become, and that was the backdrop. Like, the Bills could have had Patrick Mahomes. The owner wanted Patrick Mahomes. But so we're talking about that. And then we ended up talking about just an infinite number of stories from around the NFL. I mean, you've got such a wealth of knowledge. And I think at some point we were like, shit, man, we should just like hit record and do a podcast and tell these stories, because you don't hear this on ESPN. You don't hear it at NFL Network. You don't hear it anywhere. People aren't willing to share, people in your seat, I should say, right? Even former GMs that are on TV are pretty careful with what they say. They've got a lot of friends in the business, former coaches, same thing, very careful. And we want to be raw at Go Long. We want to be real. It's going to be a lot of good, bad, and ugly, right? Like that's football is a cross section of America. So, anyways, that's how it started. We did the podcast for a while. Life happens. Uh, Jim took on a new job. We both started having kids. I started doing some different things that go along with the Brett Favre show, Isaiah McKenzie, how the NFL works, our brief foray back into ads, which I can promise our listeners, no ads, no sponsors at all. We're done with that. It's all about you. But that's enough of me rambling, Jim. I'm just really excited to have you back on, and I feel like it was meant to be. Like we're meant to talk football. I missed
No,
you.
it feels good, Tyler, because we do talk more than just football. We realized that day where obviously we had the Green Bay Packers growing up together. We didn't realize we both grew up Green Bay Packers fans, and we shouldn't have in Western New York and Central Pennsylvania. So we had that in common. And then just our love for basketball, how we compare football and basketball sometimes, and just a natural back and forth, good way to talk football. And then the real part of it, and this is what people have to understand from my end, why I want to do this, why I wanted to do it back then is when you put together a draft class like 2017, like we did in Buffalo, and a free agent class, and I'm going back 2017 because that's the last time Doug Whaley and myself worked in the NFL. So we look at that as we look back at that draft of free agency as we're so proud of that draft class. And when I say we, it was all of us. It was a joint effort with Sean McDermott, his coaches, Whaley, and our staff. We just had a historic type off season, and Doug Whaley and I never work again in the NFL. So that kind of, I'm going to leave it at that, and we'll go off on other tangents as we go through this, but people join us with this journey. But that's why I like to tell stories because you know what? I'm pretty proud of what we've done for for this to help this organization get to this point with the ammo that they needed. And hey, they did a great job. Bean and McDermott did a great job of identifying their staff, identifying Josh, building around him to get where they are. It's just funny. So I do like people to see how it works and the real side of football. You can fail forward in this business, or you could be great and never work again in this business. Can't explain it.
Yeah, I mean, when you look back at it, 2017. So that's 8 years ago,
Crazy.
almost a decade. Tre'Davious White is back on the Bills, and I get it. The Trey White you see out there on Sunday is not peak prime Trey White, but the fact that he's still in the NFL is remarkable. And that player he was before those injuries started to set in, he was an elite cornerback. Zay Jones is still catching balls, catching touchdowns. He's still playing. He was a second round pick. Deion Dawkins is a pillar at left tackle for this team. They re-signed him and doesn't show any signs of slowing down. He's one of the best left tackles in the sport. Matt Milano, right? He's at linebacker. I get it. He's battled his injuries, but man, that was a find for you guys at 163rd overall. That was a damn good draft, but also you have to look at those free agents. Micah Hyde, Jordan Poyer, it might be the best safety tandem. That might be. That is the best safety tandem in Buffalo Bills history. And I think it's interesting too. And we're going to get into a lot of topics on this show, but just we always kind of feel that magnetic pull back to the Mahomes draft.
Well, I
That
wanted
was
to, yeah,
that was kind of a theme
wanted to get
before.
in how this.
It is telling though. I mean, Poyer being out there. When I saw Cole Bishop flying around, 4 pass breakups, man, that was a difficult play in the end zone. Tyquan Thornton, like to not hold him, not grab him, and to knock that one out. He had the 4th down breakup earlier in the game. He leveled Travis Kelce in the end zone. When's the last time you saw the Bills make a tight end make anybody pay for crossing the middle of the field? A lot of teammates said this in the locker room, Jim, that they see Cole Bishop talking to Jordan Poyer all the time. I mean, so Jordan Poyer's value, it might not be seen in his play, but it's absolutely the case behind the scenes. So your fingerprints are all over this team, all over the NFL. Still, you're way too modest. But yes, I'll say it. Jim Monos is a friend at this point. But Jim and Doug, it's a crime that you guys aren't in the NFL. Look, a lot of GMs and a lot of teams struggle at quarterback. That's just and a lot of them they get 2-3 cracks at the position. You look at the free agents that you guys brought in, some of those draft picks. There's a lot to be proud of. So it's awesome to have you here to kind of relive that and also talk NFL
No, I
today.
appreciate that, Tyler. And it's a fun way for me to always compare for people to understand. It's not bitterness at this point. Enjoy. I love life, love Western New York, my son. I'm so happy. Everything's working out how it should. But when I see that when the Jets hired Mike Tannenbaum as a consultant to hire their next coach and GM, and that was a guy they fired. I need to make sure we point this out that the guy that they fired brought back to help them hire a coach and GM and put them in the possible worst case. The Jets are a complete joke and a clown show right now of an organization, worse than it was before they asked the GM genius Tannenbaum, who they fired. I just can't get over, and that's where I like that real football part. This is crazy to me that how does this work? How does Aaron Glenn get to coach and the GMs get to be GMs with these moves? We're sitting here with, bye-bye. Don't ever come back to the NFL after a resume builder type, draft. So anyway, like I said, this isn't about
Yeah.
bitters to let people know it's a hard world. And that goes for every business. I just like to point stuff out.
I mean, I think we come at it with two different perspectives that are valuable. So I love traveling around the country and writing these player profiles at golongtd.com for our subscribers and really those team deep dives and trying to figure out how teams build up and how teams can be torn down. And I feel like there's so much that happens behind the scenes and nobody has a freaking clue. Like the NFL's popularity, it's through the roof. Like it's people talk about this league nonstop. It's on your phone with every alert. It's on your TV. It's the league has done a masterful job of promoting itself. I mean, they basically just took Christmas away from the NBA. they're they're going to be played on every day of the week in our lifetime, probably. Yet for all of this, I feel like fans, consumers, the people that make this league go, that pay $100 for a ticket and $60 for parking and $18 for a beer, they know less and less and less and less. Like information is suppressed. Um, the NFL kind of treats itself like USSR, like it's the Soviet Union. Like information is so protected when it's a game, and it's really more like Game of Thrones. I'll never forget. That's how one coach described the NFL to me. It's like there is a lot of stuff going on behind the scenes, and nobody has a clue. Nobody has a clue. No, people don't like to talk. So that's kind of like the charge here. We want, from a reporting standpoint, I try to get people to talk, try to build relationships, try to bring you the truth when it comes to this league. And I feel like Jim, you lived it. I mean, you were there with the Eagles, the Saints, the Bills. You still have relationships throughout the NFL. A lot of those Southeast scouts that you worked alongside with the Saints, they're GMs today, right? I mean, Brian Gutekunst and Brad Holmes and a lot of these guys, you're on the scouting trail with them.
No, and it's fun to see that because we talked about how it's fun to see those guys get their chance because I think they all were deserving of it. And I laugh, Tyler, because I do like to bring my experiences. But last night, I can't help but think when I saw Stephen A. Smith with Jerry Jones, I couldn't help but thinking I couldn't picture Terry Pagula sitting with Stephen A. Dapping each other up during a game and a little, some action going on. It's just crazy to think how long and how far everything has come. That Stephen A. Smith is sitting in an owner's box. But my point of that was I was able to sit in the owner's box with Terry Pagula, so I do have a feel for what goes on in those boxes, to tell stories. To your point.
And I think that we really want to stress our independence to everybody. Like we want to remain fiercely independent, and it's rare. I think people are starting to wise up to it. Rare is the talking head. Rare is the national or local reporter who isn't compromised to some degree, right? Like that could be what you just said, Stephen A. Smith yucking it up with Jerry Jones. I mean, big picture, ESPN and the NFL are literally in business together. So, I mean, the days of Bob Lee, like looking at you in the eyes and and right delivering some hardcore reporting in the middle of the day. Like, I mean, the NBA has this huge gambling scandal, and it's not really investigated. It's not really talked about. The ESPN literally has their ESPN graphic on the screen, and it was hilarious. I don't know if you caught the clip, Jim. As they're talking about it, like the producers behind the scenes, they wipe it away. They make it vanish. So yeah, I mean, I think that there's that. Then there's on the local level. Look, I've said it a million times. There's a lot of really good beat writers out there. Don't get me wrong. I'm friends with them. We've had them on the show. A lot of people do a really good job trying to bring the truth, but there's also like a pretty strong contingent of beat writers, national reporters who play up the likes and the retweets and mostly just want to pander on social media versus delivering hard truths. They don't really think with a clear eye, because I think that there is a little bit of a fear, right? Like I said it at the time when I did the Bills McDermott series in 2023, and I'll say it again here with that 3-parter on the Chicago Bears, Caleb Williams, Ryan Poles, 32 sources dissecting the dysfunction at Hallis Hall. I almost don't fault all of the fans who are pissed and right, man, that are calling me bald this and bald that and things I can't repeat. Like I almost like don't even get that upset with them because they're conditioned to just see positivity and optimism filling their timelines, right? There's a lot of fan blogs and self-anointed influencers, not just around the Bears, but with any team, any market. And when you're inundated with that nonstop, that's all you see. It's going to be a little strange when somebody comes in with a 3-parter and it's 27,000 words and there's reporting that isn't necessarily pretty. Like, so I always try to write for the people who want the truth, who want to knife through the BS. And I feel like, Jim, your stories kind of knife through an element of BS when it comes to coaches and GMs and players and anybody talking about this game. Sometimes and that's not to say we're going to sit here and just bash everybody. That's not the case at all. But I feel like maybe the truth kind of gets lost through the media discourse of pro football today.
I'm itching to bash somebody right now.
Oh boy.
But that's not what the show's about, so we'll wait.
Well, here's what we're gonna do on this episode, in every episode. So this will be once a week. We're gonna film it on Tuesday and get it to you as soon as we can. Make it look a little more professional than those early days. And yeah, we'll rip through the games. We'll both offer some quick thoughts on what you saw Sunday, Monday, and then we'll have a theme. Like we'll definitely have a topic. We'll try to stay on track best we can. But I kind of want these to be marathon pods too. Like people are paying us to listen, to read. We want to make sure you get your money's worth. And I feel like this week, we focus on 3 teams that just came out of nowhere, that are shocking the world. We're going into week 10, Jim. I feel like right now we kind of know who's a contender, who's a pretender, and we can kind of sift through that and dig into, 3 teams that could legitimately go on a Super Bowl run that nobody saw coming before the season, other than close family members of those quarterbacks and those coaches and those stars. So that will be this week. I feel like next week maybe we kind of sift through the rubble and the muck and see, all right, here's 3 teams that are completely falling apart, and here's why that is happening.
You kind of let the information dictate to us by week. What's going on. We're going to just try to hit what's going on. But I when you brought this up about these teams that have out of nowhere, I loved it. It kind of sparked me right away when you said that, because they've been the 3 teams I've just been fascinated with. So,
Well, let's just do a rapid fire though on the
yeah,
games to
no,
start.
definitely.
I think that's good to kind of
Mm-hmm.
set the stage.
Can
So
we start with last night?
I'll just kind of we'll go one. Give me a quick thought on all of these, Jim. I'll chime in as well. I mean, do we have a quick thought on the Thursday night game? I mean, that was kind of a bore fest. I mean, Miami is just a fish out of water, dying, taking
Yeah.
its last breath this 2025 season.
And they just fired Chris Greer, who I work with in the Southeast as well as a GM. He's been there for 9 years. I think he was the longest tenured GM. He's had plenty of chances. Nobody's going to feel sorry for Chris. Chris doesn't feel sorry for himself. He's a through and through football guy. He'll find a way to bounce back. But hey, he's got plenty of chances. The team is in a complete, they're just complete mess. And we go back to this with the Dolphins. I just want to say this with Tyreek Hill. It's funny when Andy Reid moves on from somebody that's special. Andy Reid likes to win titles too. And there's a reason when Andy Reid says, I'm moving on from somebody, when Sean Payton moves on from somebody, you don't need to do any more of the work. The Hall of Fame coaches just told you that Russell Wilson's not good enough in Denver. Sean Payton told everybody that. Andy Reid told the NFL, Tyreek Hill's not good enough. Yet GM, not that talent-wise, just for the locker room. And the GMs don't care. Desperation is unbelievable. And you go and pull Russell gets 2 more chances. Embarrassing. Tyreek Hill is a complete distraction, which Andy Reid and everybody knew in that organization. Promise you. He was in college. That's why he lasted as long as he did in the draft. Point being is, this is the stuff I like talking about with Miami. Hey, good for you. I don't feel sorry for Miami to be in this dysfunction. You took a quarterback nobody was sure about anyway, Tua, with limitations physically coming out of college. Then he gets banged up. Now you beat him down mentally and physically. He's not even himself. He's not even as good as he was coming out. When they had that magic with McDaniel that first year, when it was like they're scoring 70 a game and changing the NFL, these aren't the same players.
Great points all around, and I wrote about it extensively at the time when Tua is taking over the NFL. He was an MVP frontrunner that first year with Mike McDaniel. I think they were like 8-3. Tyreek Hill, Jalen Waddle, Raheem Mostert, Jeff Wilson. This was a cocky bunch for all the right reasons. And yeah, it was interesting talking to them. I think it was ahead of that 49er game. And that's really when things started to take a turn. But Raheem Mostert, he had the quote where he said, "Yeah, now I'm playing with a quarterback who can actually sling it." He was, correct. It was harmless, but 49er fans absolutely lost their minds. And Raheem Mostert, unfortunately, did the whole "I was taken out of context" thing. Then, goes on San Francisco radio and backtracks and tries to throw us under the bus. Really, I could have just posted the audio, right? But took the high road on that one. Anyways, they go to San Francisco. I think Trent Sherfield had like a 70-yard touchdown the first play. Mike McDaniel dials it up against Kyle Shanahan, and would that have been D'Amico Ryan still kicking around there? So they have that moment, and then everything just completely falls apart. I mean, the injuries are a big part of it. Probably should save the Dolphins talk for next week, right? But yeah, it just goes to show like what Mike McDaniel did for Tua is so impressive. Like he got him to believe in himself again. Like he just played all of these positive clips famously and had him looking in the mirror and really believing that he can be a good quarterback again. Because Tua was looking in the mirror before McDaniel was hired and said, do I suck? Like Brian Flores just beat him down. And there's a lot of good there. Like that's awesome. That's great modern day coaching. But man, if you're constantly looking for the positivity in your players, then you're probably going to overlook what's holding that player back, whether it's the quarterback or any position. Mike Silver on the show a few weeks back, he wrote the book on all these coaches. That was a point that he made. That might have been Mike McDaniel's downfall. Maybe he and Chris Greer in concert just failed to really account for what is holding any player on the roster back, and they never really had much substance, right? Like they couldn't beat good teams. They couldn't play in cold weather. You got to eat your vegetables, your meat and potatoes, and this was just a sugar high football team from the jump, and now they're falling apart. All right, but definitely, I want to save. I'm sure there's a lot more we get into with Miami. All right, the Bears Bengals.
Okay.
That game was drunk.
On perfect word, however you said that. Wild. The gambling world's still talking about it. It's ridiculous. Everything that happened in that game at the end made no sense as far as just that's football. You can't explain it. The fact that Joe Flacco, we'll talk about this as we go too, but I want people, this is what I always said. When you're building your team and you have a franchise quarterback, your number 2 quarterback is critical because you now have a chance to win the Super Bowl when you have the correct quarterback as your starter. You need a veteran backup. Look at Brissett. Look at Flacco. These guys you can make an argument they're better than Murray and Burrow right now. They're on their respective teams. You could make that argument. Joe Flacco doesn't know the offense comes in and they're putting up this points. How many times have we heard quarterbacks need to be in a system for years? They have to be tied up and synced in. Flacco comes in. Now they're not winning, obviously, because it's just patchwork football. They're just playing, hey, here's a couple plays for this week. But my point of that is it gives you a chance to keep moving for those 4 or 6 games, whatever you need to get through a season if you do get an injury, to not derail your team that you built for a Super Bowl. Those guys have been impressive. But back to the Bears-Bengals game. Ridiculous. Bears are showing life. You've covered that story. We'll cover Caleb as we go. He shows the flash like we see. everything that you said, Tyler, about him in your story, and people can look that up. I don't know, you don't want to get into it now, but the talent's there. It's everything else that drives people crazy about him as a quarterback, that he's still fighting with the head coach. And fighting, I say, you could tell they're trying to coach him out of things, the bad habits he has. The good habits, he makes rare throws. He makes rare plays with his athleticism and ball skill, arm skill.
He
He does.
does.
And so you have to be excited for Chicago to have life. But they're still, hey, it's a work in progress, but they at least have life.
Right. I mean, they easily could be 2-6 when
No
you
question.
dissect it game to
No
game,
question.
but you are what your record says you are. They're 5-3. So instead of losing to Tyler Huntley one week and Joe Flacco the next,
It's just life.
they win 47-42. So Joe Flacco, he went 31-47, 470 yards, 4 touchdowns. It was unbelievable. I think though it's so depressing for the Bengals. I when you really look at their roster, man, okay, look, T. Higgins, Jamar Chase, like the simplistic view is you paid for the wide receivers and the quarterback. Of course, you can't do anything with your defense. I want to ask you, Jim, that's false, right? Like you could have gotten that Higgins deal done sooner. You could have gotten Chase done sooner. You could have converted their money into bonuses, push money into the future, create cap space in 24, 25, 26 to then go out and get yourself a pass rusher, a linebacker, a DB. It's it's just it's embarrassing and humiliating when you watch a game like that because it didn't have to happen. Look, they've signed free agents before, right? You think way back to was it like Mike Hilton, Trey Hendrickson, Von Bell. Like once upon a time, they had that offseason where they did spend a lot of money around that rookie contract. It's just, I don't know if is it ownership? It's got to be ownership, right? We know they're cheap. They just don't want to risk paying people not to work, and it's at the cost of not having a defense. You got to draft better too. Don't get me wrong, but this was completely avoidable. This calamity that you saw against Chicago.
I'm always going to talk about the core four with organizations: ownership that spends money, stays out of the way; GM and head coach synced up. That's 2 and 3. Franchise quarterback, in no particular order. All four, in my opinion, have to be check marked for you
Yeah.
to sustain success and be built right. The ownership has never been right in Cincinnati as far as spending money. Would you agree? Right. So they don't
Yes.
check that box. Who is the GM? I still don't know. I know it's Duke Tobin in acting, but really nobody ever knows. Their scouting staff has always been shaky as far as do they spend money on scouting, background,
Bare
bare bones. There you
bones.
go. Good word. So I can't check that the head coach and GM are synced up because honestly, I don't know their relationship and how it's working there. It's very confusing, their dysfunction. And then you sprinkle in Burrow. They hit the check mark. You get a franchise quarterback. When you get that franchise quarterback, when you get that goal, to me as a GM, I'm building that defense like crazy. The franchise quarterback is always going to make the offense right. I promise you. Build the defense,
Yeah.
and you will be sustained success for all the years you have that quarterback.
I think it's going to be a good segue into. We might as well get into what was the game of the week. But I can remember Zach Taylor at the owners' meetings, sitting by him there, and it was really telling. I mean, he was pretty open for a head coach in a media setting where he's basically said we got to get back to the basics. We got to get back to fundamentals. We have to learn how to tackle, and they planned on playing guys in the exhibition games with Al Golden, their new defensive coordinator, replacing Lou Anarumo, who's doing a pretty damn good job in Indianapolis. He's a college coach, right? He's teaching 18, 19, 20, 21-year-olds how to tackle, like how to take the ball away, how to punch it out. Notre Dame had all these turnovers. And so in theory, like you can follow Zach Taylor's logic. Like, okay, like figure out a way to not tackle like ass, as my pal Paul Danner Jr. said earlier in the offseason. We had him on. He's like, they should put that on a t-shirt because that's really what it comes down to. And it's just got to be so disheartening. You go out there, it doesn't, I'm sure they did all this behind the scenes. Like they're getting back to basics. They're trying to get back to fundamentals, which isn't easy when there's less and less and less padded practices. And guys in college aren't asked to do this kind of stuff in a big boy game. Uh, but the tackling has somehow gotten worse. I mean, watch that touchdown to Colston Loveland. Like he just kind of gives him a a chicken wing of a shoulder. Like he lines up too far back, which I thought was mistake number one, and just bare minimum, wrap him up, bring him down, make him attempt what a 47, 48-yard field goal. What I'm saying though is at the end of the day, it just comes down to who you are as a player. And the Bengals just haven't emphasized defense to take advantage of this Joe Burrow window. And too much debate Brandon Beane has here in Western New York. They spent this offseason acquiring Joey Bosa, Michael Hoyt, Larry Ogunjobi, drafting Maxwell Hairston, drafting 5 defensive players with their first 5 picks before they get around to a blocking tight end. By the way, it was defense, defense, defense. Here you go, Sean. Here are all of the options at your disposal. So when attrition, as we see, naturally occurs, and you lose a Ned Oliver to a torn bicep, and Michael Hoyt now to a torn Achilles, man, those are huge injuries, especially Hoyt. Man, he looked so good. You've got other options. And I just feel like there's substance to the Bills roster that you don't see in Cincinnati's roster, in Miami's roster. And they're built to win in the playoffs, built to win against good teams. So they beat Kansas City 28-21. I've written about it. I talked about it enough. What does Jim Monos see in the Buffalo Bills right now at what 6-2?